welcome back. The supply chain in North America is one of the most important in the world. That is the reason why we have so many challenges and opportunities too in Mexico, United States, and Canada. Today, we have the honor to having a good friend and a rock star of the automotive sector. So please welcome to Greg Laskey, VP of Purchasing of Toyota North America. Hello, my friend, and welcome.
Oh, wow. That was quite an introduction. Rockstar's a bit much here.
Like you are, man.
Very good. My name is Greg Laskey, although I'm not a rock star. I'm a vice president in purchasing supplier development in Toyota North America, calling in today from my home in Michigan. My safety commitment is I'll continue to follow CDC guidelines, and my diversity commitment is I'll strive to be a model advocate for diversity and inclusion every day. So first of all, I want to thank all of you. I presented last year at this event. I want to thank INA for helping with the preparations here today. But more importantly, all the work you've been doing in your close relationship with Toyota, and more importantly, our supplier partners there in Mexico. So thank you for being a cohesive unit and a unifying body there in Mexico, as we've really had a lot of close communication over the last few years. So Oscar Albin and your team have done a fantastic job. And this is my second year here, so I must have been okay last year. But last year I did a lot of my presentation on competitiveness, and I'll recap that. But if you go to the next slide, I have a broader communication today. So this is the curvy road that we're all on, and these are my agenda topics. So with my time here, I'll try to hit these quickly today. And really what I'm trying to do is give you a perspective of all the things coming at us, opportunities and challenges here in North America. And we're going to start off with mobility for all, but soon we get to the cone and the caution flag, and I will talk about supply chain and the challenges from our perspective at Toyota North America. And then we'll talk a little bit about trade, USMCA, and then over on the curvy road in our first curve here, we have competitiveness. So I'll talk about a little bit of a recap of what I shared last year about what it means to be a competitive supplier in Toyota North America from our perspective. We'll talk about sustainability and carbon neutrality, and then CASE, one of our favorites, which is connected, autonomous, shared services and electrification, and then I'll wrap it up. So hopefully there's something for everyone in this agenda. Now, let's get started with mobility for all. Next slide, please. So when we think of mobility for all, if I go left to right here, my first is a big shout out to all of our tier 1 supplier partners in Mexico. We've consolidated our Tacoma to our 2 plants in Guanajuato and Baja, and you're doing an amazing job on the current Tacoma, as well as we're starting our new design and development towards this segment leader for the next Tacoma. So despite all of the disruptions, which I'll get into in a moment, we've had great success, and of course we want to build more, but at this time we're really trying to create value through this mobility footprint consolidation of the Tacoma. If we go to the middle, electrified mobility. I won't get too far into this, but you can see in the small print here, we had a big announcement just a few weeks ago regarding our first battery plant here in North America, and there'll be more to come on that in the coming months. But Toyota retains our leading position in the industry as a provider of hybrid vehicles. Of course, we have fuel cell, we have plug-in hybrids, and I'll share in a moment an exciting BEV that's coming next year. And then in the area of mobility, we go past terra firma, we go to the air, and our partnership with Joby Aviation. Of course, mobility really is about getting all of our customers from point A to point B. So we have a collaboration with Joby that's very far along, and some exciting developments there. You can certainly look up more on Joby to understand their business model and where that is going. But that's something of an air taxi that will continue to delight our customers in the future as that comes to fruition in the coming years. So with that, those are some exciting announcements and directions that when we say mobility, it really moves beyond our core products into the expanding automotive world, but also into the air and other businesses. Next slide, please. Now we get to the cone, as I mentioned, and the caution. And if you go to the next slide, I'll call this the big three of our supply chain challenges here in North America. From our perspective, I'm sure this matches up pretty closely with the other folks who will present after me. But before I get into these three challenges, I just want to say it's been a remarkable journey over the last 18 months in the area of safety. Despite all of the supply chain challenges and the desire for all of you as supplier partners to want to make more and ship more and get it out the door quicker and faster, we've been extremely supportive of your efforts in the area of safety. And I just want to commend you. It's been an exemplary performance that you're keeping your team member safety as the priority versus any production schedule. So let's keep that up. Okay, so I'm going to talk about semiconductor shortages. What my captions you can see here: improving slowly, labor stability, health and inflationary challenges, and then logistics congestion, unfortunately at an all-time high. So I'll make a couple comments on each in the next few slides. Let's go. Semiconductors. So as many of you are aware, and a lot of this is obviously covered in the media as far as what has happened here. Automotive semiconductor is a small part of a larger silicon industry. And there is a general capacity constraint specific to automotive. It's constrained us at varying levels, but coupled with that, or compounding that, as you can see in the far bottom left here, Southeast Asia resurgence. So that capacity constraint that was upon us post startup after COVID last year really became an acute problem earlier this year, as inventories were already low and we had rolling stoppages based on COVID shutdowns, primarily in Southeast Asia, which it disrupted the back end process of a lot of the major providers of these automotive chips. So that is primarily where Toyota has been impacted over the last several months. And just from a left to right standpoint, our communication, just sharing on a monthly basis, TMC, our parent company in Japan, is releasing kind of the global impact of that. And for our supplier partners on the far right, you can see we're issuing a bi-weekly detailed line-by-line assessment of production impacts, trying to be as communicative as possible with as much advance notice as possible to our supplier partners. And I can tell you, coming out of August and September, we're in a much better place now. And while I'd love to say that we're out of this, Q1 does look to have some challenges. And I can say that the challenges are not in a very singular commodity, but it is a general semiconductor challenge. So I'll leave it at that. And I'm sure there are other experts that will be on here to support that discussion. Labor stability. Quickly, I have a quick shout out to Mexico here. You're doing great. Well, I should say you're doing better than we were a year ago. This is a per capita snapshot, I believe, of about a day or two ago. So obviously the health and safety of our team members is primary. So we continue to monitor your situation, all the North American countries, to understand what that may bring in the future. And then on the right, labor availability, a little bit more of an issue in the US, but overall inflationary concerns associated with wages and availability and health and safety continue to be a challenge to get the necessary labor availability for production. Next slide. And then finally, logistics. This one is very much upon us still. The picture on the left, if you can see that well, as of yesterday, I'll give you a fact, 79 vessels were waiting berth in Long Beach, LA ports. And as you can see from the caption there, we have a 20-day delay from normal unload periods. So this is resulting in knock-on effects to the rest of the global infrastructure. Rail is congested in certain areas, and then on the right, quote from yesterday is about 2 weeks for Asia inbound freight. So certainly with the holidays upon us, more freight moving, this is becoming a very significant, or has been a significant challenge, and will continue to be over the next several weeks, probably months. Okay, next slide. So that's it for, we're past the cone here. We're going to move on to some trade topics. Next slide. First and foremost, as the title of this session, the USMCA 1 year, of course, as Toyota North America, I'll just read our, one of our leaders' quotes recently here. Toyota's goal is to continue our philosophy of producing where we sell and procuring where we produce. So really, that's where we come down on USMCA and how we're navigating through the new arrangements. On the bottom left, a shout out to our team in Mexico, working with our Toyota Tier 1 supplier partners on training over the last year. Thank you for that. And then on the right, I've listed 3 topics of probably of interest in the near term here. And I put awareness of detailed legal requirements, due dates, and impacts. So this is just more of an awareness. I'm sure all of you know more about this than I do, but certainly what we're following from Toyota North America is outsourcing reform with a due or a date of January 1st, the USMCA CBA certification legitimization in May. Obviously, that is a long process, so we would assume your companies are endeavoring to meet that requirement. And then energy reform, I'm being made aware that that vote has pushed out to April, and so there may be impact associated with that. So just a shout out to 3 key Mexico dates coming up here for trade and industry. Next slide. We'll go over to competitiveness. As I said at the onset, I wanted to revisit my presentation from last year. If you could go to that. So on the left was my cover slide. I deep dove this sustaining the competitive edge, and maybe just a few remarks. This slide is a wrap up on the right here. And from our perspective at Toyota North America, the maybe 3 pillars of becoming a competitive supplier are associated with the foundational on the left, which is developing this culture of competitiveness, continuous improvement, removal of waste, and really developing that in your people. In the middle section, I talked about being strategic in your approach to problem solving and to your new product and your launches. And I'll call out the bottom 2 red blocks there, benchmarking and front loading. We're very big on this at Toyota because it has been proven time and time again that our Tier 1 supplier partners who do appropriate benchmarking and data collection at an early phase are much more ready for competition and ready for product launch. So that is something that we continuously share as a best practice in our Tier 1 supply base. And then sustainability, I think this is a little bit more towards creating an ecosystem that has you as a company sustained for the long term, so that it's not a short-term endeavor. And maybe here, I would like to call out what I did last year, which is developing your entire Mexico supply base beyond your company to your tiered levels through your localization of those parts, components, and materials that may not be readily available today. So that's a strategic advantage that creates sustainability for you going forward. Okay. Thank you. One more, quote here. Competitiveness is not a price, it's a discipline. That's how I closed last year. By that, I mean that competitiveness often is a feedback session that we have between OEMs and suppliers on a price that was offered. Was it competitive? And I guess where I want to go with this is that you might be competitive on one project or not on another, but the discipline of competitiveness is really what I believe and what Toyota North America believes is a repetitive motion in your company and therefore a sustainable advantage. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So we'll revisit the curvy road here and we will go on to sustainability. Next slide. So I want to talk about two areas. First is the Sustainable Development Goals, and I'll talk a little bit about carbon neutrality and what we're doing at the Toyota level and then at the supplier partner level within Toyota North America. Next slide. On the left, you see the 17 SDGs. Ideals for us to coexist on planet Earth, some of these environmental, but also societal goals, and well documented and presented in this format. So these are now 6 years old. If you move to the right, you know, as these were released and as we look at the SDGs, Toyota has a lot in common with these ideals. We feel like we must contribute to society. Of course, the quote here from our CEO Akio Toyoda is all Toyota team members must have a you perspective, taking into account others. So not a me, but a you. So this all revolves around being a company that is interested in societal benefits and sustainment going forward. And we've actually tied our corporate Hoshin to the SDGs at some level. So we're very much online with these. And if you go to the next slide, talk a little bit about the environmental side of the SDGs, which is a few of those 17. Around that same time in 2015, Toyota released the Environmental Challenge 2050. You can Google that and read more about it, but you can see the 6 challenges. And they are very much around environmental sustainability with CO2 reduction, with water conservation, with biodiversity conservation, and recycling. So this is our roadmap at Toyota towards carbon neutrality and being a good steward of our environment in a global sense. On the right-hand side, proud to be part of this. This is a new public document that we released earlier this year called the Green Supplier Requirements. And within that was in April of this year. And within that, you can see in the black box, we issued for the first time this year, a 2% annual reduction. That's by facility for our tier 1 supplier partners, over 800 facilities in North America. And we have a platform to request and receive that information that was rolled out earlier this year. So we're coming up on our first roll-up. There will be recognition, and this platform has the ability for best practice sharing going forward. So we like to do that at Toyota, and that is a big step we're going to take because we see the environmental preservation, similar to safety, as a non-compete area. So with that, that concludes our sustainability area. Next slide. So now on to CASE, connected. Well, we'll go to the next slide. I think it spells it out a little bit better. Yeah, connected, automated, shared services, and electrification. And these are the technologies and the businesses we are partnering on. And I'll mention a few more here in a moment, but I'll give you an update on the 4 here. Next slide. So first off is connected. Toyota's excited. As we speak, we are launching our new Tundra, and it is the first vehicle in North America to get our all-new multimedia solution. And this has all of the bells and whistles that you would expect over the air. We have digital key, we have personalized settings, new navigation. So all of what you would expect is here, and we'll roll that out quickly over the coming model changes and minor model changes as we go forward. So a more connected world and a Toyota solution that is now in Tundras, which are going on sale here in a couple months, the new Tundra. Thanks. Next. This is our automated teammate concept, and this is also being packaged and now sold in some very high-end vehicles on the Lexus front. I believe also the Mirai, which is our fuel cell vehicle. This is level 2, and we are excited to continue to expand that availability into the rest of our fleet as we go forward. Next. This is shared services. On the left, you can see Aurora. We're partnering with a pilot activity. That's a Toyota Sienna there. We're retrofitting those and making those ready for shared services. I mentioned Joby, another shared service. Of course, this one in the air. We're working with Joby in this this new business model. And then on the right, we've introduced ePallet some years ago, but we're really starting to get into applications of this platform. And as it was rolled out, it was everything from delivery to retail as a general platform, but those applications are now coming to more succinct business models that we're working with partners on. So very exciting area, shared services. Next slide. And then finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, the eTNGA, so you may know our TNGA platforms have been rolled out across our current vehicle lineup, and now we have a eTNGA platform, and next year on the BZ4X will go on sale here in North America. Our first BEV for sale again in North America. So expanding our offerings, and behind that is a plethora different options for, as I mentioned, HEV, BEV, fuel cell, and for plug-in hybrids coming very quickly. I'm sure, like many of the other OEMs presenting in this event. Okay, next. So let me close here. I'll hit each one of my topics and maybe just make a comment, and then I'll pass it back to Alberto. Next slide. So if we think of supply chain here, you know, my thoughts, your takeaways here is, of course, stay healthy, be safe. We like to say BNF, or bad news first at Toyota, and this is not a negative, and it's very much a positive when one of our tier 1 supplier partners will call us and say, I have a problem, because we very much value advanced communication and working through solutions together, as well as we will make it. As I mentioned, we're coming out of some of these issues slowly, and I hope 2022 looks a lot different than 2021. I think we're confident that it will. On the trade front, seek opportunities that are coming to Mexico based on as we grow into this USMCA age. In competitiveness, as I mentioned, develop a culture of competitiveness. I use the word diligence here. So I just for all in the automotive tier 1 business here on the call here, you know, I think that's what we've seen as a success model. Sustainability, investment, and opportunity, quickly moving to the sustainers. So this really is upon us as far as the opportunities for those companies that are really being stewards of the environment and of society, and that is becoming more and more of a mandate for all of us as customers and investors. And then finally, mobility solutions. I think this one is my favorite still. Everyone is a player here. Find your connection. So I don't think it matters what type of solution, technology part that you're supplying to the industry. It will be part of the mobility future. And I think it's exciting to be there and end there for my presentation. So thank you very much for listening. Gracias.